Hi guys, welcome back to Darkhorse Paranormal. This is episode 8, The Brownlow Hill Vampire, a story by Tom Salmon. So, let's get to it. We learn that Tom Salmon first read about the basic details of the following creepy story from an article by the world-renowned criminologist and folklore historian Richard Withington Egan, and it led Tom on to research the story in much more depth. Withington Egan mentioned the bookseller's house on Liverpool's Brownlow Hill, which was haunted by an entity, and due to researching the background to the story, Tom discovered that the so-called haunting, believed to have been the work of a poltergeist, had much more sinister history. This following part is what Tom unearthed with his divulgings. In the 1930s, a family at a house on the corner of Brownlow Hill and Townbridge Street were troubled by what they assumed to be rats within their cellar. The Williams family heard a loud scratching sound coming from the cellar on many occasions, and so with that, rat catchers were brought in, but caught nothing. One afternoon there was a loud crashing within the cellar, and when Mr. Williams went to investigate it, he found a huge gaping hole in the cellar wall and a pile of crumbled oak bricks below it. He summoned his brother, and they both peered into the hole with candles. What they saw amazed them. The hole led to what seemed to be a series of catacombs and tunnels. The Williams brothers knew nothing of the so-called Knoll of Red Hill, and naturally wondered who had constructed the tunnels. They heard about the sound of someone breathing heavily nearby, and the faint sound of footsteps. It sounded like someone large and heavy, and the brothers felt so uneasy, so they left the tunnel and bolted back into the cellar. During this time, both men could smell something very similar to altar incense wafting from the tunnel. The brothers ran upstairs and locked the cellar door, and told the local policeman, who went to investigate the tunnels later that day with his bull's-eye lantern. After a brief explore of the subterranean passages, the constable returned shortly afterwards, white as a sheet. He told Mr. Williams that subsidence was to blame, and that the so-called catacombs were just cellars. He advised them to get the hole bricked up again, and left sharpest. Two relatives were bricklayers, so Mr. Williams arranged for them to do the job, but halfway through the breaking up, the men heard strange sounds from the tunnels. They continued to brick up the hole as fast as possible, when suddenly something very powerful punched through the newly set bricks, scattering them everywhere. The bricklayers fled from the cellar as fast as their legs could carry them, and they refused to go back, even to retrieve the work tools. Mrs. Williams refused to stay in the house alone when her husband went to work. That was because she thought she'd seen a very tall man in black dart across the hall one day towards the cellar. Matters turned for the worst when an old man in Townbridge Street claimed that an old vampire was said to have his lair beneath Brownlow Hill. The man was much respected in the neighbourhood and was regarded as a very wise person. He said he remembered people who had gone missing from the Liverpool workhouse, which stood on Brownlow Hill in the Victorian times. A thing was said to come from under a slab in the bowels of the workhouse to seize women and children. Strangely enough, a man who ran Collins' bookshop on Brownlow Hill confirm that there had been indeed such a legend. Some say the thing was a ghoul, others claimed it was a vampiric being which lived in a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers under the city. One person in particular said to know about the strange creature. He was Thomas Whiteside, Catholic Archbishop of Liverpool. He even sought advice from the Vatican on how to deal with vampires, which are mentioned or made reference to in all the world's cultures. The eating of the body of bread and drinking wine for blood in the Christian Mass is thought to echo a much older ritual which had a vampiric origins. There were stories that Archbishop Whiteside had tried and failed to defeat the thing within the tunnels. Now we go forward to the mid-1960s. The Metropolitan Cathedral was built on the site of the warehouse. The crypt beneath the cathedral was being visited by vandals mostly from Paddington Gardens and the Bull Ring. A night watchman named Sumner was brought in to guard the crypt. In this crypt, it lies deep below the basalt sandstone of a miniature quarry. There are tombs. There's a vaulted chapel called the Chapel of Relics, and inside there are 3 large tombs containing the mortal remains of the former archbishops of Liverpool. Thomas Whiteside, Dr. Rich Downey, and Dr. George Andrew Beck. These tombs are sealed with a gigantic round stone, shaped like a disc. It weighs 6 tons and requires machinery to roll it open. One hot summer's evening, the night watchman Senegal went to the crypt with his DeSanto radio and his sandwiches. He sat down in the corner near a small window, which hadn't glass put into it yet, and he unwrapped his sandwiches and he felt the ground shaking. The giant-shaped stone was moving, turning slowly anti-clockwise, until a black, gaping hole appeared. From this gap walked an unmodified tall figure in black, who slipped into the room where Senegal was on duty. The figure, insubstantial, like a shadow or silhouette, and it was heading straight for the night watchman. He couldn't run for the door because the terrifying figure was in the way, so he turned in sheer terror and desperation. He tried to scramble through the small hole where the window pane was yet to be fitted. He smashed his head repeatedly against the small opening in a blind panic, and then collapsed from shock and concussion. When Snuggle woke up and the lights were off in the crypt, and he had to feel his way to the door, his head trembled as he tried his key to unlock the door, and as soon as it was opened, he ran for his life. He was later treated for a fractured skull by the Royal on Pembroke Palace. Snuggle never returned to his old job, and the authorities blamed vandals for the minimal damage to the crypt, which was subsequently resealed. Stranger still, that very same week, there were a lot of series of grave robberies in the cemetery of the Anglican Cathedral. All the robberies took place in supposedly tombs. Strange men and women in black had been seen in the cathedral cemetery that week, and police even went to the trouble of visiting schools in Edge Hill and Toxteth to advise children to avoid going near the cathedral on the way home. Considering the vast legacy of the mole of Edge Hill and the other uncharted tunnels of Liverpool, could the Brownlow Hill vampire still be at large beneath the city streets? So there we have it, the story by Tom Salmon. So, would you like Darkhorse Paranormal to go down through these tunnels and investigate and see if we can come across the Brownlow Hill vampire. Please feel free to comment in the comment section, and we hope you have enjoyed this series of podcasts about some vampires within the Liverpool area. So, until next time, sleep tight.